And we are back to talk about some of the coolest shows of last year. But first, we also got to talk about the newest Marvel show because we cover Marvel, Echo. I'm here with, as always, Mr. Preston Jacobs and special guest, my Marvel expert, Mr. Ness from the Comics Wiki. Hello, sir.
Hello. Nice to
Uh,
meet you.
Your voice is so low because we caught him. We woke him up from a nap, and
Yeah.
now it's
the audience doesn't know this, but Ness is my Marvel expert because I feel like I'm very blessed on YouTube. I have a bunch of people I know that are experts. Of course, Preston is my Ice and Fire expert and my government aliens expert. Miss Amber is my Wheel of Time and Three Body Problem expert. Mr. Yoyston and my Lord of the Rings expert. And Trey the Explainer is my expert in what looks good in booty shorts. So I feel like I'm very blessed. I feel like I'm very blessed. So Ness, we're going to talk about Echo. And because I have you here, I have to ask you, Echo, I'm not familiar with this hero at all. Is she even a hero? Because Preston
Yes.
was messaging me privately saying she killed like 100 guys.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's true. It's true. We'll
Um,
talk. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that problem. But yeah,
yeah. I don't know if I'd consider her a hero in this. I think even in the comics, she's more of like an anti-hero type. She's just a female Taskmaster, if you know who he is. That's
remind me.
so Taskmaster essentially is just like this dude who is very good at everything. Sorry if you could hear something. Yeah, that's at 137. You might want to cut out. So Taskmaster is essentially just this guy who can analyze anything and be able to reproduce it, like fighting styles. And
this was the character from Ant-Man 2.
yeah.
Didn't they?
Oh no,
But
no,
they
Black Widow. They put him in Black Widow.
was he in Bell? Oh, he was a Black Widow. What? Okay, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry to confuse those two very forgettable movies with people with very similar suits.
No, no,
What
it
was the one from
totally makes
Ant-Man
sense.
2? Ghost or
Yes.
something? Taskmaster.
That was
Taskmaster
Ghost.
was in Black Widow. I'm sorry. I'm
No,
sorry.
yeah, you're all good.
And
Yeah, so
Echo is like a Daredevil character.
yeah, I'd say she's more allocated to Daredevil. I haven't really read much of her. She kind of just pops up in comics, you know. Usually like Daredevil characters. Like I wouldn't know exactly like who she like. I never read her original run. I've only just seen her pop up in Daredevil.
hmm I'm assuming they slept together because, according to Preston, Daredevil's a whore.
Well, it's like I think it was more or less. I don't know if they've ever slept together. I've only seen them like fight and work together. But I know that it kind of goes hand in hand. Like you probably noticed it in the show. It's like Daredevil's blind, she's deaf, blah blah blah. Fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Right. Like that movie with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor. Hear no evil, see no evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah, I think it says here Echo. Yeah, she was in The Hand briefly.
hmm Yeah,
And so they throw they try to throw her into some other things, but the problem is if you don't have massive superpowers, you can't be in kind of the big stuff. You have to be in the street level stuff. So
yeah,
you
Defenders.
you
that
get in
kind of-
Daredevil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Do I
and I have
think
to
she
say, like,
deserved her own show? No, not at all. This is weird.
well, it's odd because Daredevil has always been a B-list, even C-list superhero. Like he's a guy that people who are really into comic books read,
Yeah.
but he's not like somebody that he's not Spider-Man, X-Men, right? And then he's not A level. And then like the B tiers were always like Iron Man, Captain America, Avengers kind of stuff. And then then you start dropping down the list. You get to like, Daredevil. And so when we got a movie like the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, that only happened because wasn't it originally going to be done by the crap, wasn't it originally going to be done by Clerks guy?
Actually, I think. So I think so, but I know that he did Daredevil Guardian for Marvel.
Okay.
Like he genuinely did like a whole run where he throws this baby off of a roof because he thinks it's the Antichrist. And Black Widow's like, yo, you can't just be throwing babies around. I actually looked that up just to see. He's written several Daredevil issues, and he had a supporting role in the 2003 movie. I didn't even know that.
And then, and of course, like Ben Affleck, who is like, heavily related to that. But anyway, it's weird that Daredevil kind of became more popular because of the Ben Affleck movie, and then we got the series, which was pretty well received, at least at the beginning, and all of a sudden Daredevil is kind of now a household name when he was never really, at least me growing up, Daredevil's wasn't exactly the most popular comic book character.
In the era when you were growing up, he was very like loosely given to other writers. That's why like he had a lot of freedom. So that's why like when Frank Miller came in and did that like Man with No Fear kind of thing, like he got to do some crazy stuff with it and take it back to like the origin of Daredevil and he kind of remade that character. I think that Frank Miller stuff really like perpetuated him. It made him kind of forever character.
That is kind of the funny thing, because the same thing happened with like Swamp Thing, and because wasn't Swamp Thing given to wasn't Swamp Thing given to the guy who did Watchmen? Why is my head like not thinking correctly?
I actually don't
Alan
know.
Moore. Alan Moore. Yeah. And so I kind of feel like when you have these like C-level, D-level superheroes, they can take risks with them and do something crazy with them, because they're like, well, what are they doing? They're collecting dust. It's not like, you can go in and rewrite Spider-Man and like undo Uncle Ben. Okay. That's never going to fucking happen. Right.
That's
like
one of the.
Yeah. It's so important that you can't possibly undo something like that that's why it's actually kind of surprising when like retconning out Mary Jane, the Mary Jane marriage and stuff like that is so weird with Spider-Man. But you feel like
One More Day
with these minor characters, you can give them to people and they can have like big artistic freedom with them, because it's like, who cares? We don't even care about this guy. But anyway, Echo is like a minor character associated with a minor character. We're at this roundabout way to say Echo is this really insignificant Marvel character who now got her own series, because I think we're at that point. We're running down the list,
And it's funny that you say that as well, because I was on Twitter like last night, like after it had hit the day we're recording this, and I saw something and it was like El Muerto, a Spider-Man villain, his movie was supposed to come out today. Like that was supposed to be released today.
Right.
He's the like, wrestling one,
Yeah. Like
I've read like one comic with him in it, dude.
The fact that there's a Madam Web movie coming out is absolutely insane, right?
That's the funniest thing. That's so funny to me. I can't wait to watch it.
Like even comic fans are like, Madam Web.
Yeah.
Who is she again? And you're like, she's nobody. She's literally a nobody. She's like somebody that like occasionally has a cameo once every 20 years. But nonetheless, the premise of Echo is it kind of hits a lot of intriguing buttons. Like one, she's deaf. Two, she is an amputee.
Yeah.
And three, she's an American Indian. And so you've got these three things that are not portrayed very much on screen. And
also kind of portrayed badly a little bit. I just want to say, like, I don't know.
No, you are right that all three of those things are not portrayed well. For example, whenever they show deaf people, and they did it in this, but they always like talk and sign at the same time together, when actually sign language grammar like works
very different.
So you can't do that, Yeah,
so, I grew up around deaf people. My mom's best friend, like the family has a deaf member, so they're all speaking sign language constantly, and it's so different from this show. It's ridiculous to see. like, oh my, I'm glad you put a spotlight on that. That
Yeah.
wasn't one of the things I had been heavily thinking about, where I was like, this sign language is kind of weird. So I had seen ASL translators talk while translating sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's usually just the ones that aren't deaf, right? But
Right, and it's very difficult as well. Could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine like doing two languages simultaneously that had different grammar flows? Like it's just,
dude,
I don't, it'd just be very hard to do.
I can barely do like Naruto hand signals. Like, this is insane what they're doing.
And as for amputees, I guess I have never seen any real amputees on screen. I mean, they have the ones where they digitally take out people's legs, like in
That's true.
in Forrest Gump. But to have a real amputee, and then
Like Kurt Connors, they did the green screen arm in Amazing Spider-Man 1, I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like he wasn't even a real amputee. And then Native American life, the way that's portrayed, oh my gosh.
Right. So and this is the thing that this is kind of funny. Like, okay, they did a better job than most with like portraying American Indian, Indigenous, Native American. I know people are gonna like make a comment about this, about like what should you call them? And
I
the answer
differ back and
is,
forth.
well, the answer is American Indians
Yeah.
are not unified and they have different preferences. So it's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult to say. American Indian is fine for the most part. For the most part, American Indians like to be called by their tribe name.
Yes.
But you know, American Indian is fine. It's not really offensive. The term Native American became a little popular, but it kind of became popular among white people because to differentiate them from East Indians. Now the term Indigenous seems to be gaining traction, but again, like all these terms are fine. No
I
one's gonna get
remember-
angry if you
because I-
say like yeah.
I live in an area where there's a lot of reservations, and I used to go to the powwows as a kid. And I remember at a powwow, like, going to celebrate, I had asked I was like 12, and I had asked an older Native American man, right, something, and I said the word Native American, and he was like, "Don't call us that." And he said he preferred to be called American Indian. So that's why I had been switching back and forth for years and years because of that.
Right.
That guy
So the
specifically.
problem with the term Native American, one, it was invented by white people. But two, when you say native, a lot of people get this idea in their head of somebody primitive.
Yes.
And so this is why a lot of American Indians don't like the term Native American. Now, so many use the term Native American and Native. So so you're going to get this contradiction, but this is the whole thing. Like you've got a diverse population. So you're going to hear them all. So generally speaking, though, you're not really going to offend anyone by saying American Indian. You're just going to confuse people because there's East Indians. I think Indigenous is probably fine today, but again, it's if you know the tribe name, say the tribe name.
Yeah, I think this
Generally
one.
speaking.
Yeah, this one was like the Choctaw. But okay, so
Yeah.
I found I know that you have a heavy interest in Native American or American Indian stuff. I know you're writing a novel about it and whatnot, and I personally go through Native American stuff, like novels daily. Like I read Empire of the Summer Moon by C.S. Gwynne recently. I like Earth Medicine. I don't believe in it, but I've gone through many Native American readings and studied it too. I found this show to be extremely racist towards American Indians. And the reason I say that, I was breaking this down to somebody in my household like 2 days ago. I was like, okay, imagine this, right? They say your race came from underground, had like bark skin, got smashed by a giant rock after drinking some psychedelic water. And then now you come to the earth with already puka shells around your neck and face paint, and all the bark breaks off your skin. Marvel's implying that okay, it's not like they're Wakandan,
you're not human or something. Yeah,
you're subhuman.
Species.
You now are different. Like you're not a human. They didn't create an inhuman mutant race for this. They just were like Native American. Some Native Americans are from underground. And I was like, whoa, like that's kind of an insane thing to imply.
It also
honestly.
wasn't necessary.
Not at all.
Like had they eliminated the cave shit and they just had the ancestors, you would have achieved the same thing. You didn't even need the explanation.
Well, the ancestors. Do we know for a fact that there aren't any like tribes where that's their origins?
like really? I don't think so. Like I don't think a lot of them came from underground. I've read a lot of the tribe's origins, and a lot of them come from like God coming down and turning like bears into men, or like stuff like that. You know, like that's a West Coast tale.
You know what? I think you know what, Carmine might be onto something here.
Because when I was a kid, I read this like Christianity dinosaur book for kids, and it basically taught you that carnivores and herbivores were never a thing, and then some of the dinosaurs started eating each other, and then God got very upset, so he made the dinosaurs extinct, and then at the very last page, people came up from the ground. So, yeah, that I swear I'll try to find it, but I swear I read that as a thing, as a children's book.
No, I believe you. I'm just not involved in Christian like culture. I was raised more in like, I guess, a Catholic light, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I've never seen anything like that.
No, so Carmine is correct. So you know how they were all playing
lacrosse.
The lacrosse scene,
Dude.
The lacrosse scene, which was beautiful scene.
That's the scene I wanted to bring up with you.
Right, it has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with. Right, you're just like, this is one of the most incredibly filmed like scenes.
The lighting's amazing, like the set design is amazing, and then it's like, if we don't win this lacrosse game, we'll be banished from these lands. I was like, yo, that is not how that works. What? That's not how that works. You guys don't play soccer and kick each other out. That's fucking weird.
Well, I'm not sure about it, because I do know that in Mexico, like the people
Aztecs.
the Aztecs would kill the losers, and then there was some discussion of actually maybe the winners were killed, and we're not sure who was killed, the losers or the winners. So there might be something like that. Again, I don't know anything about the Choctaw belief, like history or anything. In fact, my interest in American Indians is actually very focused on modern American Indians, and which is kind of funny, right? Like, yes, we learned about, and we'll get into this in a second, because it's kind of important. But yes, the Choctaw did have a belief that there's this cave, and this cave actually exists in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
I'm sorry, it's in Mississippi. I think that the lacrosse game was in Alabama, but the cave is in Mississippi. Where the Choctaw originally were before they were pushed to Oklahoma, and it's actually a pilgrimage site, and so this cave is actually a real thing. And I think according to beliefs, it's the mother mound where the first Choctaw was created.
Yeah. Okay. I only looked up just their Wikipedia page before I had went to bed, so I knew about I think there was a supreme being, like a sun god or something. There was a couple other things, but that makes a lot more sense. So that's probably what you were talking about.
It's this place of creation. Now, with regard to my interest in American Indian media, it's mainly from. And it's fairly recent. There was a movie called Smoke Signals that came out in 1998, and Smoke Signals was fascinating to me because it was a portrayal of modern American Indian life, and it opened my eyes quite a bit. And I'm very thankful I saw the movie. I think everyone should see the movie Smoke Signals. And Smoke Signals, if you watch anything related to modern indigenous stuff, they're constantly referencing the movie because it's really, really important. Because when we learn as white people in America, when we learn about American Indians, we learn about them in a historical sense. because we enter our history class and we take our pictures of America and we draw them in with our colors when we're kids. And we're like, this is where the Eastland Woodland Indians were. This is where the Plains Indians were. This is where the Southwest Desert Indians were. And this is where like the Pacific Northwest Fishermen Indians were, you know, and we all did that shit. And then all of a sudden you move on to, oh, and then there was America, right? And we're talking about Thomas Jefferson. And the American Indians disappear from the narrative.
There's a giant gap in what happened.
Right. And I remember thinking about that and how I went to the American Indian Museum in DC, and so many people, so especially white people, when they went to this museum, they were really disappointed because what they wanted to see was a bunch of arrowheads and canoes and all sorts of historical stuff. And the American Indian Museum in DC, it's all modern. It's modern art, like contemporary art from contemporary American Indians. And it's information about the American Indian tribes today and what they're doing. And it throws people off because they're like, but where are like the tomahawks and the canoes and all of like the totem poles and all the relics. And the big statement is, we're not fucking dead. Okay. We're here. We exist. We're still like we're this like completely ignored people that is not, and when we are put on TV, it's in a historical sense. It's these people getting shot by cowboys, or these stories about John Smith or Columbus. You know, it's never like what they're doing now, which is why the movie Smoke Signals was so important, and why later Reservation Dogs was so important. Reservation Dogs is very much in the tradition of Smoke Signals, and this show basically hired the entire cast of Reservation Dogs and put them into a new project. Badly, but they put them into this new project, right? So they were kind of, you know, I don't think they did a horrible job with their portrayals of like, you know, contemporary American Indian culture.
I think there was room to talk about things that reservations needed help with. For example, there is a lot of alcoholism that, you know, needs to shine a light on. There's a lot of like gambling issues. There's a lot of people are living off of welfare kind of stuff going on in the reservation. And I felt this could have been a great outlet to let, you know, the general audience say, look, these people like that we kind of, I mean, for lack of a better word, fucked over, right? Like the general government, everybody go to Oklahoma, everybody do this. You're stuck here. We're taking away your tribes. We could have shined a light on that. Like this show could have shined a light on that. But instead they took the safe route and was like, yeah, we didn't even talk about, I think they talked about reservations like once or something like that. And
that's the thing, is I don't even know if there was a narrative function to the show. Like, what is the message they were saying? Like Echo is powered at the end by her ancestors. Okay. Yeah. What does that mean?
She's
like,
the avatar.
What is that? Right, but like we haven't learned what struggles her community like had. We didn't really learn the struggles that her ancestors had. We kind of know her struggle, but it's really weird. Like had I structured it, and maybe people would call this too woke, but like Echo, if I were to structure the plot, it would have been, look, Echo is trying to free herself from Kingpin and live her own life, not as an assimilated copy of her, but like leading her own role, like having her own like path that like that's also strong but independent and maintains like, you know, history and culture. Like Kingpin could have been the stand-in for white people. Like he's just big fucking white dude, right? He could have been the stand-in for white people, and Echo could have been the stand-in for the American Indian community. Yeah, right?
It could have been her going like, this guy, like this specific guy who represents a culture, right? Came to my life, fucked my shit up, and now I can actually move. Like without him, I can move on in my own world. I can, and maybe we get some plagued flashbacks or whatever of her and Kingpin.
Right.
Kingpin making her do some messed up stuff. That would be honestly amazing as a message.
Right. Like I have my options. I can be just like him. Or I can be fucked up and wallow in my fucked upness, or I can rise up and like be something new, you know, and be proud and continue on my own. Like that could have been the metaphor, and you could have like explored the community, explored Echo and her life, and had that parallel structure. Instead, there are 5 episodes. The first episode was a previously on
Marvel Spotlight.
Right? It was,
and let me just say that first episode probably the best one, because I'll be very real with you. I don't remember anything that happened in Hawkeye other than he has a protege and Kingpin was in it for like 2 episodes. And I don't know if you guys saw my Twitter post when Daredevil shows up. He showed up like he was like the final boss of a video game.
Yeah.
The music changed. It was like people didn't like that fight for some reason. I thought it was pretty freaking good.
The fight was fucking awesome. I don't know what they're talking about.
It was pretty awesome.
There was one cheesy line that made me check out where she they beat the shit out of Kingpin's like little proteges and he goes, "I've been watching them all day," and he hops in. I was okay, guy. But the shotgun stuff and then fighting over guns, that was really cool.
Right. I mean, the fact that I could see what was going on and I understood what was going on. I also, it was an interesting choice throughout the entire series to cut the sound so that you were in Echo's head and then I
like the heartbeats. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was really great. Some of the fight scenes were great. I actually liked the roller rink fight scene where she where she blasts the music, and of course she's deaf, so like she's not listening to Rob Zombie. You know, it's no problem for her. And so I did like some of those fight scenes. I thought some of them were really well choreographed.
See, but then they get pulled into scenes like the train sequence where she has a flashback moment, sees her ancestors, rips her prosthetic out of this thing, and then so this is where I started to be like, oh, this is a bad show. Okay. They do the thing where she's approaching the tunnel and she has to back up to get closer to the tunnel. She jumps in slow-mo. Oh no.
Take the worst part of the last Indiana Jones movie and then redo it again.
I just watched that before this too.
I know. People walking on top of trains without wind against a green screen. fuck you guys.
Like, just a tunnel is coming. Oh no.
Oh.
So safe to say, both of you didn't like it. I was, for me, it was whatever. Was it really bad? No, I've seen bad shows this year, but it was. If I never saw it again, I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's where I'm at with it.
Look, it was short, and there was enough intriguing stuff that it was low stakes and low risk. I don't think I expected very much. I really just felt the scenes weren't put together well. There was very bad pacing. We were introduced to a lot of characters that didn't actually touch the plot at all. Like I keep thinking how much time we spent at the old man's fix-it shop.
Yeah, the pawn shop place.
Yeah, the pawn shop, which had very little to do with the plot other than the fact that he gave her a camera, and how little time was given to her best friend. Seemed
I didn't even remember her until you said that.
Right, her best friend who and cousin, are they cousins?
Yeah, because she's like in the beginning, she's like, we're cousins, no, we're sisters, kind of thing.
Right, yeah. So you establish this character as like this incredibly important character, and then she's taken hostage at the end, but we don't have enough time. Yeah,
like for her, it makes sense because she spent 30 years or 12 years before she was shipped off to New York with that girl. So she's, I got to save my family. It's the last of what I have. But for us, it doesn't really feel as immediate. Like we have to get there right now, At least I didn't feel that way.
I think another huge problem was they did not establish any reason for me to like Echo. Yeah. Echo is murdering fucking people right and left. Right
well,
and
remember,
fucking left.
Preston, she's murdering bad guys, so...
No, I guess, but look, they established very well that everyone in her community is great. There were a lot of likable characters that she meets.
Yeah, I like her cousin with the dog and the pickup. That guy's really funny.
That guy's great. I liked her. I liked her grandma. I liked the guys at the old man at the pawn shop. That's the guy from. He's in Reservation Dogs. He's also in Dances with Wolves. So I think most people know the actor.
Preston was telling me how there apparently there's a very short list of Native American actors that Hollywood ever goes to.
His name's Graham Greene.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And also, by the way, Graham Greene and the other woman, her name is Tantoo Cardinal. She was also in Dances with Wolves. But like, you get the they might have actually been married in that. But whatever. There's very few American Indian actors. And so, in fact, American Indian representation, even though people think, Indians are on TV all the time. No, and they actually added up. American Indian roles are 0.25% of all roles.
Yeah, I know. I actually know that for sure because Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. I watched every episode of that, and there's an episode that takes place in Alaska with a Native American woman. She's from Canada's Native American. They actually hired her. And I was like, oh, whoa, is she really Native? I had to look it up, and she was, and I was very impressed that they even got somebody.
Yeah.
New.
Yeah. In fact, most of the time, half of the indigenous actors that act in America are Canadian First Nation. Even this is Reservation Dogs too. Half of the people are they're trying to portray Oklahoma, and they use Canadian First Nation because there's just.
Yeah, that's what she was.
Not that many American Indian actors, yeah.
So what you're saying is, Preston, whenever they need a couple of Native American actors, they usually have their go-to people, which makes sense because with Asians, it's usually for men. It's if you want an Asian for a television show, BD Wong, or if you want a female Asian person, Ming Na Wen for television. But if in movies, it's Michelle Yeoh and Ken Watanabe. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. And if you need a Korean, it's always going to be the guy from Angel.
I don't know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
I know his name's Daniel Dae Kim.
Oh, Daniel Dae Kim.
I love him. Going to get Daniel Dae Kim. Oh yeah.
But no, so for the most part, Echo, I thought it was going to be the Andor of the MCU because
I was gonna
but
I was gonna reference your message. I like when I messaged you about Echo, you went definitely not the Andor of the MCU. That was the best message.
It was fun. Honestly, it was whatever. We got it out of the way. It's there, Now
I feel like
Disney
you're more
can say,
indifferent towards the show. You just don't care, really.
Well, no offense to Preston, but when it comes to Native American issues, I'm not really that invested in it like he is. When it comes to the Marvel stuff, I'm whatever. I know you're more into Marvel. To me, I'm just a noob at Marvel and at the Native American stuff. And what I saw here, it was a thing. Now Disney can say that they've hired Native Americans and they do diversity. Cool. But I think for the most part, when people came to watch this show, they were waiting for Kingpin and Daredevil to show up.
I was.
And yeah. So
okay.
And I think this is kind of a bigger year for MCU's Native American stuff because I think, if I'm not mistaken, they made a new character for What If that is Native American. They didn't take a comic book character and adapt it. They just created a full-on new Native American character in What If, and then they came out with Echo. So, pretty cool that they're getting representation. Do I like the representation they're getting? Not really. I wish it was way better. That would have been cool.
Well, I guess you should watch Reservation Dogs instead because it's the same actors, just in different roles.
I need to go check that out.
I'm not trying to trigger you because we had this conversation on stream many weeks ago about the Marvels, but I have to ask, who asked for Echo? I didn't. Were Native American fans asking for it?
No, but it was an interesting enough premise that, and I would say it was interesting enough for me with the deaf character and how they portray that on screen that I thought it was going to be at least a fascinating premise. If you told me the premise of this, like, okay, the premise is you've got this American Indian amputee who's deaf, who's running from the kingpin, and she has to hide from him amongst like her family on a reservation in Oklahoma. I would have been like, this sounds fucking incredible. That's a great premise. Oh my God. That's fucking just interesting. There's so many things on that list that we haven't seen.
I mean, even if you took that, what you just said, and you elevator pitched it to a Disney exec, they'd go, oh my God, so many demographics we can hit right now. Oh yes. And they would take it.
That's obviously what they were kind of thinking. And you can, and when I talk about like that first episode, and that first episode feeling weird that didn't fit with the rest of the series, in the same way that the first episode of She-Hulk didn't fit with the rest of the series, it's almost like, well, we need to push the stuff that's going to pull viewers into the first episode. Because in the first episode of She-Hulk, she's with Hulk, right? And everybody's going to watch for Hulk. And so in this, they're like, oh, we're going to throw in Daredevil. So maybe we need to have all that Daredevil stuff in and the Hawkeye stuff in front loaded so that we're going to pull in viewers, and then they'll feel attached to Echo and then continue on. Had I redone the series, I would have had started with Echo arriving in her reservation, and then she could have flashbacks all the way through explaining how she got there.
Yeah, maybe not like from Hawkeye. Maybe like a new filmed flashbacks would have been cool. Like fresh stuff with, maybe her seeing Kingpin's body go into the body bag or stuff like that that we didn't get to see in Hawkeye.
The ice cream scene was very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck, Then there's references to the Netflix Daredevil series near the end.
They're trying to intertwine them, from what I hear. Yeah,
but I have no idea what Echo actually does to Kingpin's head in the end. But all right,
Yeah, it was very ambiguous.
She like enters his mind and forces him to relive his inner trauma and tries to get him to move on from it. That's what it felt like to me. So
she's healing him, but but then he's just like, what did you do? And then walks out,
Yeah.
I guess I just wish I knew what the stakes were. Like Echo also seems to have weird shifting desires, because she thinks Kingpin's dead. So she goes to Oklahoma to take over his empire in Oklahoma. And then finds out that, but to do this, she sends a bomb to New York and blows up 100 dudes. But then she finds out that Kingpin's actually still alive, and he wants to take her back in, but she doesn't want to be taken back in.
Well, and also he can do sign language now. You forgot that part.
Well, he's got that machine.
He's got the Oculus 3, I think, the Meta 3, where he can use... It looked just like an Oculus display when he was doing in the ASL. What are you doing?
I was fine with that.
I thought it was kind of cool, but it just was jarring to see because I use VR. So it was so... I was like, oh, I see this like a lot. That's weird. But yeah, no. Him being like, I want to take you back in after you shot me in the face. That was kind of interesting.
Right.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and then she says no, and then he wants to like kill her.
Then he's like, all right, I guess I'll kill you, fine.
It's like, I don't understand. Like, these are the main characters, both Echo and Kingpin, are two people that have absolutely insane motivations. And they're supposed to be insane. They're both insane. But who am I supposed to relate to? Who am I connecting with? Why do I care if they succeed? The only people I'm connecting with are the bit players in the town. I'm like, I can connect with them.
And I never once felt that like Echo's life was in jeopardy. Like every time she was about, like, I knew that they were going to save her for something later on, like a team up with Daredevil or whatnot. And I guess, going back to what you were saying, it reminds me of the first line, or like one of the first lines they show in the show with the Marvel spotlight. It's like, Hawkeye is signing to her, and he says, he turned you into this rage monster and he's using you to kill people, basically.
Yeah.
And then it goes to nearly the end of the show, and he's like, "Hey, I made you into a rage monster. Would you be still cool to kill people?" And she's like, "Nah." So I think it answers that original question or not question, but thesis or hype. I don't know what you would call it in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're trying to do is, okay, this is the theme, right? She is a rage monster created by Kingpin, and she doesn't have to be. Is she going to go back to that life? And obviously not. Throughout the whole movie, she's like messing with Kingpin's stuff. She wants to kill him. And then at the end, she's just flabbergasted to see him, you know?
Right. Like, clearly what should have happened, rather than Echo to have spontaneously started receiving powers from her ancestors, like, Bonnie should have been Bonnie as her best friend, played by Devery Jacobs from Reservation Dogs. Bonnie is the one that should have saved her, right? Like, Bonnie should have convinced her like who she was and like made her change. Like, Bonnie should have been the one that was more powerful than Kingpin in the end. Like, this is where the plot should have gone, right?
That would
like,
have been great.
this is like very kind of basic stuff. Like on who should have shifted her rather than spontaneous lacrosse player from 1,000 years ago.
By the way,
That
the
was
reason
wild.
this show felt very disjointed to you is, according to Jeff Snyder, he reported that the series was originally filmed as 8 episodes, and after various production issues, it had been founded by Feige to be unreleasable. And so they went back and reshot most of it. So, because you're right about it being disjointed. I don't know if you guys remember in like the first couple episodes, she has like this wound on her. And I don't know where she got that wound.
The
if it
dental
was from,
floss one?
No, it's like a wound she had on her stomach. And
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, you sewed it up with dental floss." That one?
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where did she get
Okay.
that? Because wasn't it supposed to be 5 months later after Hawkeye? Had she had that whole wound the entire time?
Yeah, she would have got staph infection. Like, that's...
So
You're right.
at the end of the day, like Echo, cool. It was whatever. To me, it was whatever. I mean, does that
Right, because wait, her wound should be in the same stages as Kingpin's, yeah?
Yes. I agree, yeah. It should be. And this
But
is
his
5
was
months
like
later,
fully
right?
healed.
They said that?
It did say 5 months later.
Wait,
I do
how did she
believe
get the wound again? How did she get shot? She
Uh,
get shot?
it's like the end of Hawkeye somewhere. I don't really remember. I haven't watched that since like last year, to be honest.
Oh my god, you're right. She should have the same.
Healing
She's
Right here,
Right,
time,
it says,
right.
I'm looking on Wikipedia. Avenges her father by shooting Fisk in the eye. 5 months later, Maya returns to Tamaha and meets with her cousin Biscuits and her uncle Henry. So yeah, 5 months later. But so I'm assuming this is your guys' final verdict. It was just whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be watching it again. If there's a season 2, I'll check it out. But it was
That's
definitely
kind of the
weird.
funny. It's kind of the funny thing. Like was not good. Will you watch the season 2? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, most likely.
But I'd probably watch the season 2 as well. That's what's kind of weird, right? Like,
Yeah.
I do think it's like it's such a. That's the thing is it's such a strong, interesting, unique premise that you
It's-
kind of want to watch it again and watch more.
It gave me like the McDonald's or junk food mindset where it's like, like this isn't great nutrition. Like I can't watch this all day. Like I should definitely go watch like Sendeki, New York or something like that, right? But like something with artistic substance that actually feels well done. Like, but there's no actual like intellectual nutrition here, right? But it's fun to eat popcorn. Like I do like eating popcorn. I do like eating myself some Cheetos. So it's kind of the, I think, TV equivalent of that. It's like, if there's another bag of Cheetos, I'll try it. Maybe next time it'll be a lobster dinner. I don't know.
Yeah.
Speaking of lobster dinner, President, do you want to say one more thing on this?
Well, the last thing I want to say is it wasn't ever boring, though. I will grant that, like, granted it's short, but I guess I was entertained at all times. It was never boring. It never dragged. So at least there was that. It was just weirdly edited and weird motivations.
Oddly paced.
Just oddly paced and all over the place. But Whatevs, whatever. I can't believe we talked about Echo this long.
Yeah, and I'm glad to know that the original like beginning of the show is a Choctaw like myth. Because at first I was like, dude, this is racist. You're calling yourself human. But now that I know it's like their own people are like, yeah, this is what we believe in. Okay, I'm cool with it. All right, whatever. But Jesus.
Sure, sure.